Okay, I'm calling the public hearing to order on the 2022 fiscal 22 budget for the South Windsor Water Pollution Control Authority. For members of the public, they can reach us by calling a WebEx conference call-in number, 855-925-2801. Meeting code is 7930. They can also email comments to us at WPCA comments@southwindsor-ct.gov. That's all in lowercase letters. Again, that's WPCA comments@southwindsor-ct.gov. And the WebEx call-in number again is 855-925-2801. Meeting code 7930. That said, we're prepared to take comments from the public regarding the budget. Do we have anybody coming in on a call? Are there any email comments? Okay. Tony, for procedural matters, I trust notice was appropriately placed in the newspapers of record?
That's correct. We had the ad was run April 16th in the Journal-Enquirer.
Okay, and it was posted to the town clerk's office also?
That's correct.
Okay, so that being said, let's give the public a few moments here. Perhaps rather than reading the actual notice, Tony, you could summarize the rate structure that we're proposing? Or if the members prefer, we can read the actual notice. I see.
Okay.
Okay, we'll incorporate the notice into the record by reference.
Okay, so we're bringing a sewer user rate of $415. And for the commercial side, that's $415 per 79,000 gallons. That's unchanged from last year, actually the previous 2 years. Everything else relatively stays the same. There was an increase in the assessment fees. And also we updated the qualified income sewer user charge discount. We updated them with to be in line with the state guidelines.
Okay. Have we received any calls or comments yet from the public? I don't want to do this too quickly, just in case someone's attempting to get to us. But we do have an agenda in front of us tonight that has some items that could take some time. Let's give it another minute. Okay, I have 7:06. If there are still no comments coming in, either through the WebEx call or through email. Okay, Toby, would you care to make a motion to adjourn the public hearing?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the public hearing and resume our agenda.
Second.
Motion by Toby, the second by Eric. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the public hearing portion is closed, which now moves us to our regular meeting. which I will call to order at 7:06. Meeting of the Water Pollution Control Authority of the Town of South Windsor for May 4th, 2021, is being handled virtually. And the WebEx conference call-in number for participation is 855-925-2801, meeting code 7930. Comments can be emailed to all lowercase WPCA comments@southwindsor-ct.gov. Those numbers and addresses again are 855-925-2801, meeting code 7930. Lowercase WPCA comments@southwindsor-ct.gov. That being dispensed with, Tony, you want to do a roll call?
Sure. Chairman Ruby,
Present.
Lewis,
Here, if that's me.
Dabrowski,
Here. Yes.
Frederick,
Here.
Wagner,
Here.
King. Here. Narayana. Paleolis. Jacobaccio.
Here.
All set?
All set, thank you.
Okay, we have a quorum. We'll move on to item B on the agenda, acceptance of the April 6, 2021 regular meeting minutes. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review. Any additions, corrections, or a motion to accept?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes as they are.
Second.
Again, Toby with the motion, Eric with the second. Any further discussion on it?
No.
There being none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
You're ahead of me, Stephen. But one abstention. This brings us to our next item of business, which is a sewer use appeal hearing. Is our appellant with us?
He is. Mike, can you bring in Mr. Filoramo, please?
Now you can speak. Is this the camera? Okay. There you go.
Hi, good evening. My name's John Filoramo.
Okay, Mr. Filoramo, we have you on audio. We do not have you on video.
Okay.
Hold on a minute.
No.
Are we on now?
There you are. Okay. My name's Tom Ruby. I'm the chairman of the panel. Based on the hearing notice, we were going to start the hearing at 7:15, but we've moved rather quickly through our agenda. If you have no objection, we'll start the hearing a few minutes early.
No objection.
Okay, procedurally, let me walk through this so that we're all on the same page. Mr. Filoramo, you will go first, presenting your argument and evidence. We'll mark exhibits as we go along. Once that's completed, Mr. Manfrey will put on the perspective of the Pollution Control Department. Again, marking exhibits as we need to and getting the record set. Following that, once each of you have completed your presentations, I will go sequentially through the membership to see if they have any questions or clarifications that they wish to ask either of you. Once that's completed, I will go through reciting my notes as to what I believe the elements of the case are based on what has been presented, and ask if that's accurate relative to what you, Mr. Manfrey, and the other members believe. Finally, there'll be a moment for a brief closing statement from each of you. We'll bring the hearing presentation to a close, go to a vote among the members, and then following that vote, whichever way it goes, there'll be a written decision that will come out within a few days, which will be mailed to you and Pollution Control Department. So with that said, you get to go first, and I don't want this to go too formal. The rules of evidence don't apply. It's an administrative hearing, but we do have to keep it orderly. So you have an uninterrupted period here to present your case. Go ahead.
The connection has gotten, your connection to me is unaudible. I do see you visually. If there's no objection, or I'm not sure what's,
Sorry.
seems to be the problem, but I'm gonna wait a second to maybe get
Sure.
you on audio again.
Sure, let's make sure that we have it clear. We can hear
You
you.
go in and out, I can't. Yeah, I can't hear you 100%.
Hmm.
If you're speaking now, I can't hear you.
His face is frozen too.
Yeah. Something wrong with the connection to our computer here. I don't want to hold you people up, so I had written a letter to present my case. So just in case of an event of some technological glitch, everyone could read along. I think it's part of the enclosures. It was dated 4/28. Sent it to the Water Control Authority, and I believe it was enclosed or forwarded, how you guys present, get your meeting stuff together through Tony. You should have it among the documents that he forwards to you. So I'm just gonna move forward and read the letter. This is, I'm appealing the 221 revised sewer tax charge of $14,333.53. Assessed, now I lost everything altogether, assessed on 310 Nutmeg Road South.
We can still hear you. Well, now we can't.
If you have any suggestions for him, why don't you send him a chat message? Or maybe Scott could, or whoever's down there.
So I don't see a copy of the letter he was reading in our packet. Did we get one?
I think everyone,
See, I got it now. Never mind.
Yes, it's behind the first one.
Yeah, I got it.
Maybe we could suspend the hearing and then,
hang on, folks. This is an on-the-record proceeding. We don't get to talk back and forth. It is a hearing. So give it a moment. Let's let Tony get back to us along with Mr. Filorama. I'm certainly going to consider a continuance to next month when perhaps we can do this in person. But if the technical difficulties can't be overcome quickly, we'll pursue that.
we could continue it till later in the meeting.
So I was saying, it's a record proceeding, Stephen.
Here,
We don't get to talk.
We can discuss administrative items during that, something like that.
Yeah, I see what's
Actually,
going on, and, I don't know if they can hear me.
We can hear you, sure.
Okay, I guess maybe I'm on. I am on?
Mr. Philorama, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we can hear you. We have no video.
Tony suggested I kept the video off, and that's what I'll do.
Okay, so if you want to proceed, let's see if we can get Tony back. Still waiting here.
I'm back. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Philorama, if you would prefer, I'm going to give you this option. You could either proceed with just a verbal presentation, or we can continue the case until next month when we apparently are going to be meeting in person at the town hall. Which would you prefer?
I'd like to do that. I'm really out of my element over here.
Now, you're not alone. All of us have struggled with this.
I really am.
That being said, we'll take it as a motion to continue to our June meeting. And without objection, I will accept that motion. There being no objection?
So moved.
Okay, well, Mr. Falorama's making.
I have no objection. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll pick this up from the very beginning again at our June meeting. And I thank you for your time and patience in trying to.
No,
with
thank
this.
you. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll
Good
bring
night.
that. Good night,
Good
sir.
night.
Stay
Good
safe.
night. Yeah, you too.
Okay, that brings item C1 to a close, much earlier than I anticipated. C2 has been postponed to next month. The application has been withdrawn until next month. That gets us to C3, review of South Windsor Water Pollution Control Authority Rules and Regulations, Section 5.3. I believe everybody has a copy of that in their packet. Am I correct in that?
It should be part of the agenda packet.
Could we bring Mr. Tim Shepherd in if he's trying to get in? There he is. So Tim, if you can hear me, do you want to put your video on or just speak?
I guess I've got audio.
That'll do.
Yeah, you don't
Well,
want to.
let me start since I am identified as a discussion leader. Tim Shepherd, who's one of the owners of New Way Tobacco, called me a couple months ago. They had an event occur where their lateral failed out under the street. You know, according to our current policy, that's his responsibility, the company's responsibility to fix. But we had a kind of a general discussion about whether that was a good idea. So maybe Tim, why don't I let you tell the whole story and then we'll get back.
Sure. what happened was, our lateral, had, plugged up for some reason. And so we had a camera, crew come in and run a camera down the pipe. And, New Way, the lateral had been put in by the town when the sewer line was laid. And subsequent to that, New Way tied into it. And the lateral seems to go out at a regular depth from New Way across the road. And then when it gets near the main, there's an elbow that drops it down to tie into the main. And running the camera through, we found out that was the pipe was crushed at that point. And they actually have a rock that is pushing down through the pipe. Where would a rock, sometime during that construction of the sewer line or whatever, somehow, I presume it wasn't the right backfill or something. But they've got a photo of the rock puncturing through and collapsing the pipe. So what we tried to do with the town was to figure out our alternatives. The first thing was to try to put a sleeve in it. And we realized we couldn't do that, so we ended up plugging the pipe. That was 24,000 or something just to do that, plug the pipe so you wouldn't get any soil going into the sewer line and so forth. And then we tied in for another 25,000 into our main discharge line out of the company. So I called Steve to see what the policy is. I know it talks about the customer, so to speak, being liable for maintenance of the laterals. And I'm not even, I'm not even talking about New Way per se now, or whether it should get reimbursed or whatever. But it is a topic. I think that when a homeowner ties into the sewer or a company ties into the sewer, we don't know the technical aspect. We know that we're going to pay for something to happen, and we know the town is there inspecting it to make sure it's done right. And it would seem, as a taxpayer, I wouldn't mind if once the town had approved that connection, that became part of the town's infrastructure, and the homeowner only had to worry about to the edge of their property line to maintain. New Way, whether they should pay 25,000, we can afford it. There could be other small businesses that all of a sudden, if they're going to get $25,000, and that wasn't to dig the road up, that was just to put a camera and plug a pipe. If we had to dig the road up and everything else, I don't know what the cost would have been. But I think that I wouldn't mind it if the town took a look at their policies and said, look, when somebody ties in, that's part of our infrastructure. And we're paying indirectly for an inspection, and hopefully it's done right. And the number of failures is pretty small compared to the overall budget. So if there is a failure, so what? It's just part of having an infrastructure like you do. So I think it'd be worthwhile having the town considering going to a property line, and that's it. If not, it's almost like we should get a hold of all the homeowners and business people. Like I think Steve was surprised, his insurance company said, "Oh, we cover you to the property line." Well, the homeowner should know. No, wait a minute, you better throw another 10,000 in that. Your insurance isn't gonna cover it. But just generally speaking, I think it's worthwhile for the town to consider those part of the infrastructure. Once they've inspected it, once it's that's basically if they've inspected it, they've approved it. I think it's more their bailiwick to continue maintaining that than it is a homeowner to have to get back into that line of work.
So let me chime in. What I'd like to do, because I don't think I found it.
Stephen, you're muted.
We had so much paper from the other issue that I'd like to just read the section that applies here. It's section 5.3 of our rules and regulations. All costs and expenses incident to the installation, connection, and maintenance of a sewer, lateral, or cross-country line on public or private lands shall be borne by the owner. The owner shall indemnify the town of South Windsor from any loss or damage that may directly or indirectly be occasioned by such installation. So it's pretty simple. I think, Tony made a call, which is consistent with our policy that, the town doesn't cover that. On the other hand, I think I called my insurance company, which happens to be USAA. They cover veterans. And I said, well, what happens to me if something happens to my lateral on the city side? They said, we only cover you up to the property line. So that puts me personally in a great deal of risk if something happens where they have to dig up the road. And I wouldn't have, of course this is hypothetical, but I wouldn't have an alternative place to connect. So it's one of these things that seems like a small risk. I hope to hear from Tony that they're fairly rare. But I think, maybe it would be advisable for the ratepayers to share the risk of things that happen over the property line. But that's the purpose of this discussion. Maybe Tony, I don't know how often this sort of thing happens, but maybe you could fill us in on that.
All right. Typically when we receive phone calls, a lot of the issues that homeowners deal with are blockages, and that's can be a variety of reasons. It could be roots in the line, it could be rags, it could just be fats, oils, and grease blocking the line. So I guess if there was a policy change, that would be something we'd have to consider is, where's the blockage, and then who's liable for paying for to have that cleared. How do we know where the blockage is? I mean, it brings up a whole host of questions. As far as crushed laterals, I don't personally know of a lot, but our infrastructure, the town's infrastructure is beginning, as you know, we're beginning to see effects of age, and we're starting to make investments into our pipes where we need to reline them before we have to replace them, which is a greater cost. Now, some of these homes may be entering that 50, 60, 70 year, connection point. They're going to be facing the same issues in the future. Now, of course, we deal with a much greater flow. I'm sure our sulfide levels are much greater than what's coming out of a residential house. A lot of the pipes that we're trying to rehabilitate at this point, they're typically more in the industrial area of town where you're seeing, more sulfides, and the sulfides essentially are eating the pipe away and making it unstable and in need of replacement. So that's what we're seeing on the town side.
So do you have, have you had other owners with an issue where the pipe itself has failed? I see a distinction in my mind between a clog, which could be cleared by a roto-rooter type service, and a situation where there's a structural failure on the town side. If there's a clog, you can clear it from inside the house, I assume in almost all cases, and it goes away and probably doesn't go back for years and years. But if there's a structural failure, now we're getting into serious expenses. So maybe if we were going to reframe the policy, we could focus on something like that, structural failure versus, just ordinary clogs. I did have a guy send a pipe down my pipe because I was having some issues. Turned out there was no problem in my pipe, but conceivably the problem I was having could have been a failure out there of the pipe. And I think, since my insurance would not have covered that, it could have been a very expensive thing for me or any other homeowner. And I'm just thinking that there's some point at which we, as a community, absorb the risk of a very, fairly rare event, but that would be, could be pretty catastrophic for a homeowner.
Right, so, just so everyone's aware, we do have 8,800 users in town. That's residential, commercial, and industrial. So there's essentially 8,800 connections to our sewer pipe. The town right-of-ways for roadways is 50 feet. So theoretically, if we did have a policy change, we would be acquiring, essentially 25 feet on either side of the road of pipe. And I did the math, and that equates to an additional 42 miles of sewer line. And just out of this budget alone that we're gonna be looking at tonight, and we just had the public hearing on, I had to remove $250,000 out of our capital improvement that was gonna be for manhole rehabilitation and pipe rehabilitation. I had to take $250,000 out of that to get a user rate of 415 and keep it level. So, on my end, on the town's end, we're trying to, use the money the best we can, but, taking on an additional 42 miles of sewer line has me really concerned. That would obviously equate at some point to an increase in sewer fees. And I would think that would be pretty significant. We do have 130 miles right now, so, you take on another 42, that's a large increase in infrastructure that we need to maintain.
Tony, if I may, currently we check our pipes using a camera system.
Correct.
Does that camera system have the capability to check the laterals?
No, all we can do is pull up next to a lateral, turn the camera head, and whatever it can see is what it can see.
Okay, so that would be less than 25 feet.
Yes.
Okay, so we really don't have a way of examining those laterals effectively to anticipate problems,
Correct.
short of running the camera through each lateral.
Right, we'd have to do that. We'd probably have to access homeowners' homes to do a proper inspection.
Okay, I think Toby, do you want to get into the discussion here?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, within towns and other WPCA's, what's, I'm assuming the policy we have in place is best practice. Is that correct?
As far as I'm aware, everybody that I've spoken to has, the town owns the main line in the road. It's a similar policy to ours. And it's for the simple fact that it's a fixed point, is the point of connection. Excuse me, the point of connection. It's a fixed point, where there's very little debate on who owns what. When you start dealing with property lines, you're talking about surveying and, almost imaginary lines at that point.
So is there a way for you to outline for the less informed people who are not engineers and in this cleared choices of, we have option A, option B, option C. What are our choices here?
I think the policy that we have in place, is, I think it's the best in the interest of the town for sure. As I said, we're struggling to maintain our infrastructure as it is, and taking on an additional, whatever it may be, 40 miles of sewer line, is very concerning. I do understand from a residential point of view, or even a commercial point of view, if you have a lateral collapse, or you have a break in your lateral and you need to replace it, there is going to be a cost that needs to be incurred. So I just, for me, the liability that we'd be taking on, the responsibility that we'd be taking on, it's very concerning at this point.
Right, but you're looking at an all or nothing scenario. Is there a partial solution best? Like we could make an exception, we could mitigate. I mean, it's not, well, if I let him do it, I gotta let everybody do it. That rule, I've never really liked the way people apply that in life. So is it possible to have a partial solution that can perhaps benefit everybody?
Again, it's gonna, I mean, there's gonna be a cost to doing that. The policy we have now, we have a fixed point where the town owns this pipe, the homeowner owns this pipe. Now, when you start moving off of that, there's a lot of variability there on, okay, where is the exact location? Was it on the property line? Was it past the property line? Was it, so that's kind of what we're opening.
Right. I mean, I agree, we gotta have predictability.
Tony, the town's right of way, you noted was 50 feet.
Mhm.
Now, if the road is only, 30 feet wide, that extra 10 feet on either side, that might well be the homeowner's property with a right of way on it, correct?
Correct.
So that makes things a little murkier in terms of where the line is.
Mhm.
And in the case of a state highway, we have no say how wide the right of way is, or if the state decides to add a lane. That would essentially give us a moving target in terms of liability.
Mhm.
So if I understand what you're saying is that the point of connection provides certainty as to responsibility, and other alternatives become less certain as to the point of responsibility.
That's correct.
That summarize your position well?
Yes.
Okay. Additionally, if we move forward with this, we'd be picking up over 40 miles of pipe, none of which we put in,
Well,
almost none of which we put in.
right. So when the sewer is built, is constructed, they lay the main trunk line, and then they'll run stubs off to each property.
Mhm.
And if the property doesn't connect, they'll just put a cap on it. If they do connect, the connection will be made, it'll be inspected, and then at that point, it becomes the property owner's responsibility to maintain the lateral. But the purpose of doing that is so that if a property doesn't connect at that time, they don't have to dig up a road to get to the sewer line. So it's more or less a courtesy, I suppose, and also to be less intrusive on the constructed roadway.
Okay, well, it's clearly in everyone's interest to have the stubs in place.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from anybody?
I have a
Yeah,
comment question.
maybe I could, oh, go ahead.
I'm not sure who's talking.
That's Eric. So
Somebody wave at me.
as far as my understanding is that many homeowner policies do not cover this particular part of your property. You actually have to get a linebackers coverage or a sewage line coverage. In that case, when you do get that extra coverage, it covers the line regardless of the property line. So maybe educating people that horrible things can happen with your sewer line and it might not be covered unless under your homeowner's policy, unless otherwise specified. And you should look into, extra insurance, and that extra insurance would cover you from that stub, the point of connection to the home, as far as I know. And then my question for Tony is, if we were to take this on, when there's a plug that happens in a homeowner's line or leading to, lateral leading to the home, whose responsibility is that to clear that later? If they call Roto or whoever, if it's in that piece that we are now going to inherit or try to inherit, wouldn't they try to defer that cost to us? Well, it didn't happen on my part of the line. It happened on the town's part.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be a concern as well. And then again, I mean, you're leaving it up to the plumber to say, where the plug was. They're the ones in there clearing the blockage. They measure it out so that they know where the blockage is. But you're right. I mean, they can, if it's 10 feet down the pipe, but it's still on the property side, there is a possibility that they can say, oh no, it was another, 30 feet down. on the town side, and then we'd ultimately be responsible to reimburse the homeowner for the expense. Our current policy, the homeowner is responsible to clear their lateral, if the blockage is there. However, if there's a blockage in the town sewer line and sewage backs up into a house, then we're the ones that are responsible and we'll pay for the cleanup.
That seems fair.
Could I say something?
I don't know who's asking.
Yeah.
Tim Shepherd?
Oh, okay, Tim, go ahead.
I'm sitting here thinking about how we're trying to make life simple, and I'm thinking of you folks trying to solve all these problems. It doesn't happen that often, and since we're a large taxpayer, and since we appreciate your sewers, in a way, don't worry about our concerns. I think the idea of, say, notifying the users of their liability, truly, most of us don't even think about it. And this is going to be a $50,000 deal for us, but it's better than carrying it home. So, that's the way it goes. But I can see why the town wouldn't want to get into a rat's nest of problems all around. So if there's a way to just alert the sewer connectors of this liability, I think that would, in my mind, that would be fine.
In last year's brochure that went out to the residential customers with their sewer use bill, we did have a mention of who's responsible for the lateral and a discussion about fats, oils, and grease. Perhaps we should make that a larger point of emphasis this year, Tony? And at least get the information to each customer?
Yeah, I'm making a note now. I think that would be a good opportunity to inform people, especially now that, the pipes are reaching the end of their useful life. We're going to start seeing more of these, so I think that would be a good avenue to take.
Well, that's certainly a step forward. Any
Tony,
further?
Yeah,
That-
Eric here.
Okay, Eric, we don't have you on video.
I don't know what's going on with it. It shows me supposedly, but might
Okay,
be a
go.
connection issue. Anyway, if we could kind of tell the homeowners here in town that there's insurance available out there that would cover the line itself, and they should look into make sure it's covered under their homeowner policy, and just kind of maybe have like a little note or something that says this could expose you to $50,000 worth of a liability or a project or what have you, a problem. Look into your insurance or buying more insurance to cover it, and that could be helpful. Just educating them.
Yeah.
So can I ask a couple questions at this point?
Sure.
So first of all, to me, this seems like a risk management issue, and as the responsible homeowner, of course, I have homeowners insurance. I think I even have the linebacker thing, but I don't know what its limits are. I'd be willing to bet it's not $50,000. And I'm wondering, as a community, the best way for us to manage this risk is to say, okay, if your line gets clogged up by roots or debris or whatever, rags, it's your responsibility to clean it out. If there's a structural failure in the pipe that can be demonstrated with camera, and demonstrated to be, I don't know, under the road, under the sidewalk, maybe we don't look at the property line, then the town would cover you with some deductible. But I mean, to me, there's really no way for the homeowner to adequately manage this risk. I don't think linebacker would cover you for what Tim just went through.
I believe the linebacker program is through Connecticut Water and deals with potable water lines.
But there's similar.
It also does sewers.
There are similar
Also does
insurance
sewers.
policies that are available. I've looked into them.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Thank you.
get a line coverage. You can get something that'll cover that lateral, not properly line oriented. It'll cover the lateral and the cost of reconstructing it. And to actually say that, oh, if this happens, then maybe the town can get involved. We have an endless supply of money to go in and deal with this. That and everyone that's going to have a problem is going to try to get the town to pay for it. So I think it's a rat's nest if we try to go down this road. It should be right up to where we connect to the stub. That's, the stub is the towns, or that main line is the towns, and the lateral is the persons, the property owners.
Okay. Any further comments or questions?
So the only action we're getting here is that, we're gonna promote linebacker or some other program to the homeowners or to the owners of whatever property we're dealing with.
Well, we will advise them that such things are available and provide some sort of messaging that the laterals are their responsibility rather than promoting a specific program.
Yeah, tell them to call their insurance agents and look into it. I mean, these people, everybody gets home insurance and business insurance. So everyone should be, as long as they know about the problem, should be responsible enough to call their insurance agent and say, hey, listen, I'm responsible for this lateral. How am I covered on this? And then do their own personal risk assessment from there. If they want it, they don't want it, they can afford it, what have you, and go from there. I think it's a lot for the town to take on, especially given the different budget issues we have. We try to keep, things pretty much in line with the budget. I don't think that's going to help with that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I agree with Eric. However, one of the things that I have found is that you sometimes need to say what's in it for them. WIFM is the acronym for that. I say that to say this, that if you put out that we understand that there may be a situation, even though it might be an anomaly, but this is what's in it for you. If we take on this, if I heard correctly, if the town takes on this, this will increase XYZ tax, blah, 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 across the board. However, because we don't want to do that, we encourage you as homeowners to call your insurance company and do the research. This way, for me as completely oblivious to this type of a thing, but just on seeing that, I would say, okay, let's call and find out that covers this. And that way, people can,
Stephen, I believe you're breaking up for everybody. I mean, you're certainly breaking up on my end.
Ah, shoot. Okay. Let me find out. Well, my point is, I think we should just give people the wording that they need and let them know what's in it for them.
Okay. Mr. Shepherd, has this discussion met your goal here?
Well, I think it's great. I appreciate all of you folks go through and believe me, we don't need more complications. But I think making homeowners and landowners aware. I can't say that I really read the brochures that often, so I don't know whether somebody can come down and slap me and say read the damn thing. Or,
we read them several times before they go out, so it evens out.
Oh, I think I'm glad we brought the topic up, and I wasn't chasing anything. I figured, the more money you can save in sewers, the more money you're going to put into open space. So I'm all for it.
Okay.
Let me just ask one more question, if you don't mind, and that is, Tony, how many of these structural failures of lines, of laterals occur every year on average? What do you think?
That's a question for the engineering department. When these happen, they have to pull a permit to get a repair. If I had to guess, I'd say you could probably count on one hand every year on sewer lateral repairs.
And some of those are on the property line, on the property, and some of them are out in the street.
Yes.
And what's been happening to the homeowners that are affected by these?
They get it repaired. They have to pull the contractor has to pull a permit to make the repair. The repair is made, and then a note is made on their property records.
Okay, thank you. So we're talking about $100,000 a year worth of repairs or something like that.
We really don't know.
For me, it's unknown.
Okay, are we all set here? Okay, thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Appreciate you joining us. bringing the matter to our attention. Okay, we are on to item D, communications reports, the superintendent's report.
Okay. Thank you. So this past month, Jim Kavanaugh, passed his class 3 exam, and he's being promoted to a class 3 operator. He joined us in 2018, as a class 1 operator. And I included a chart here just to show you what a significant achievement that was. I contacted, the DEP, to see what their 5-year pass rate was. So for the class 3, it was a 29% pass rate over the last 5 years. So we're obviously very proud of Mr. Kavanaugh and his achievement. He's been doing a great job for us, and you know, we're all really proud of him. Town staff is being returned to their offices beginning May 14th, and town hall will reopening to the public May 19th. They're working on a flow traffic pattern at this point, but those are the tentative dates that we've received. As far as the treatment plant goes, the process continues to improve with the rise of seasonal temperatures. Our UV disinfection system was in need of some repair, which we were able to do, and for the May 1st disinfection season. The failing concrete floors in the sludge storage tanks were also repaired this month. In the collection system, we were able to inspect over 30,000 feet of sewer pipe, and this includes our staff along with our contracted services. The annual maintenance of submersible pumps were completed. Grit and grease were removed from 5 of the pump stations as part of our preventive maintenance. We also started cleaning the Sullivan Avenue sewer. I know I talked to a couple of you, and you saw our vehicles and people out there, so that's what we were up to. This is all preventative maintenance. We're also going to have that area inspected as well with a camera. The capital improvement projects, the pump stations, Arcadis, our engineer, needed to perform an additional analysis on the Benedict Drive pump station force main, just to determine the proper pump sizes for that pump station. I also reached out to DEP and confirmed the loan application is being processed. Chapel Road, the last section of liner was actually installed today. Tomorrow, Inland Waters is coming to do the grout injection of the service laterals, and that'll bring us to substantial completion for that project. The collector of revenue gave me a report. The commercial collection for 2021, so the most recent sewer bills, we're at a 75.82% collection rate. On the residential side, which went out in October, the collection rate is 97.79%, and so that exceeds last year's rate of 97.71%. So she's obviously been doing an excellent job. Again, the delinquent balance is at $209,000, and I reported in April, or she reported in April, that the delinquent balance was $237,000. So she's collected almost $30,000 in delinquent sewer users by utilizing the state marshal. She's also renewing the alias tax warrants for the residential bills for the state marshal, and in accordance with our standard operating procedure, the mailing for the commercial sewer demand and intent to lien notices are being mailed out, so that liens may be placed no later than July 1st. And that concludes my report, and I can take any questions.
Questions or comments? Stephen Wagner.
Yeah, I would just note, the Chapel Road, Clark Street station, the work is complete there, right?
For the lining,
For whatever was done to that station's pumps and all.
was this for the capital improvement for?
Yeah, the capital improvement. The reason I'm asking is I've been watching the energy usage, and the 2020 energy usage in the Clark Street station, pump station, is actually 13% lower than 2019. Now, I don't know how much is COVID, probably very little. So I think we're seeing the benefit of some of the improvements that have been done over in previous years.
Yeah, we've installed variable frequency drives for the pumps, and that just so as the flows decrease, the draw on the pumps will decrease. As flows increase, it'll ramp the pumps up. That way, you're not running the pumps at full 100% capacity. So this kind of helps save electricity. But we do receive a lot of flow from the Manchester area. We take like the Home Depot side down, goes to that pump station. So some of it could be COVID effect, but yeah, so yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the VFDs.
We'll probably have a better idea in another year whether how much benefit we're getting from these things.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Carol?
Tom, Jess, can we send a letter to Mr. Kavanaugh congratulating him on passing the Class 3 exam from the WPCA?
Yeah, we should do that.
Thank you.
That's a fine idea.
Tony, has anybody else done anything that deserves a letter before we send just one?
No, not recently. He's been the first person that's passed the test in a while. Because as you can see from the chart, we're up to 8 Class 3 operators at the treatment plant.
Mhm.
And I did a rough calculation, and we have about 4.5% of the Class 3s in Connecticut. So our little plant is pretty well trained.
Okay, then without objection, I will put something together and send it out on behalf of the authority, if that's okay.
Thank you.
So moved.
Now it gives me something to do. Any other questions or comments on Tony's report? Okay, we are moving along. No public participation. I assume, Michael, is anyone trying to contact us? Okay. Bills, change orders, disbursements. Tony, we have nothing to deal with it. Unfinished business, the budget, which always seems to be unfinished until next month when we vote on it. So, Mr. Manfrey, you care to open a discussion on the budget?
It remains unchanged from last month. When I had the public hearing on it, I have not received any phone calls or emails or questions. We are maintaining a 415 user rate, and as I mentioned in the public hearing, that'll be the 3rd year in a row. If there's any further questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Well, you included a 10-year capital improvement plan chart
Yes.
in our agenda. Is there anything you wish to comment on that?
No, I just wanted to make the authority aware that this is our 10-year capital improvement plan. And we do have a number of projects lined up in the future. So, I mentioned last meeting that, we've kept the sewer user rate at an affordable, in my opinion, affordable 415 for, this will be the 3rd year. If it does pass, we can't obviously do that forever, and we are going to have to increase sewer user fees just to maintain infrastructure. This year had to cut $250,000 out of rehabilitation projects. But I do understand that we do need to be responsible with the money, but also, have an affordable user rate. But I just want to make the authority aware that we do have a number of projects lined up. We do have 130 miles of sewer line, which is going to be a lion's share of the projects that we need to get done. We also have 11 pump stations that we do need to maintain, and they're not going to last forever. So that's what the capital improvement plan is for. It's just a projection of, future projects that we need to keep in the back of our minds.
Okay, just by note of that, I have contacted Congressman Larson's office and asked them at the staff level to keep an eye out if any federal funding should become available through the clean water portions of the various federal bills that are going through that would help us in offsetting costs locally for either pump stations or sewer lines. If we hear anything, we'll certainly pass that along. Other than that, any other questions or comments?
Hi. Hey, Tony, as far as the miscellaneous industrial users, MIUGP, are we expecting to have a meeting this month with our subcommittee?
Yes, we are going to be meeting at the end of the month. I don't have the date in front of me, but yes, we are planning to meet at the end of the month. And we did meet, just so the authority is aware, we did meet this in April. We had a good discussion, and I believe we're going to be prepared to at least give a preliminary report for June. So thank you for bringing that up. I meant to take note of that.
Okay, thank you for your work on that, Vicki, Carol, and Tony. And we'll look forward to it on the June agenda. Any other business to come before us this evening? There being none, I will call upon Toby, who I know is ready, for a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting tonight.
Second by Eric. All those in favor, just indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Meeting is concluded at 8:04 p.m. Thank you all for your participation. We struggled through that hearing portion, but with a little luck, next month we'll be doing it in person and it will work out a little better.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all again.
Thank you.